So it's all to play for still.
I think so. Do you want to bet against us?
Hello, Aston Villa fans, and welcome to For the Love of Paul McGrath podcast today for something a small bit different. In the international break, as we know, we're always starved of what I would call quality football. Now, I think Kerry might have something to say because she was in Dublin over the weekend, and we will talk about that in a moment. But I feel that sometimes, me personally, I'm starved of quality football. Sometimes I watch international football, sometimes I don't, but it's not high on my agenda. But something that is high on a lot of people's agendas is maybe where the next meal is coming from. You know, people who've maybe struggled during the course of the week or the month or the year and can't make ends meet. And sometimes it's very, very important to highlight things that are more important than football. As Jurgen Klopp said, I think it was Jurgen Klopp and maybe another Liverpool manager said, football is the most important of the unimportant things. And things like, you know, being able to provide for your family, be able to, make sure that your kids get off to school with the proper nutrition and the proper, full belly so that they can learn correctly is very, very important. And I'm delighted today to be joined by Kerry Linehan from the Aston and NECHELLS Foodbank collection. Foodbank, we were doing a collection on the 14th of September for the Aston Villa and Everton game at 3:30 p.m. At various there's a couple of pickup points that Kerry's going to talk to us about, but she's also going to talk to us about the food bank because, you know, unfortunately in 2024, when you would think that you know, in the developed world, if you want to call it like that, we would have enough resources and enough facilities to be able to go around. We actually don't, and it's really important that we help and we facilitate and we donate where we possibly can to organizations like this. But Kerry, I don't think I'm going to be able to give it as good an introduction as you will. Thank you so much for joining me and talk to us a little bit about the food bank, please.
Yeah, of course, no worries. So thanks for having me on to share some information, really. So Aston NECHELLS Foodbank has been running now for about 11 years, which in itself is something we kind of never hoped to get to that point. It originally started within Aston Parish Church, and it was just people who were coming along to the church that were expressing the need really for, you know, food or help with, like you say, where their next meal is coming from. Now, during that time, we have seen, a massive increase in demand for that service, which has grown outside of the church and into the community of Aston and further into NECHELLS. Now, the area itself, just to give a bit of a background, is one of the most deprived areas in the country. So maybe people don't realise that, particularly if you're attending, you know, to go to Villa Park, which is grand and, you know, lots of nice things within it. But actually the streets around it and the community around it are suffering more than perhaps some people are aware. I think there's around a 56% deprivation rate just within that area. So people are, you know, really on their knees in some places, and we are helping them where we can. So we provide, of course, food to these people, and we have, you know, anybody who comes through the door. We're not judgmental, and people can be in all sorts of different circumstances. Particularly during COVID, we saw perhaps non-traditional that some people might think attending, because suddenly people's income streams, revenues have dried up, or channels have switched because of certain situations. And really, it can happen to anyone at any time. So, yeah, we're always completely non-biased, non-judgmental. And alongside the food, we also provide a advice service for signposting. So if people are having a particular struggle, so it might be over the last couple of years, we've seen a lot of increase in electricity rates and things like this, transport costs, general cost of living, where people are finding it a bit hard with, budget management and where do they actually put their funds and what's left over at the end. So we do always try and signpost people so that we don't become a reliant service. We don't want people to have to come to us every week, you know, but really in terms of when people are in crisis, we will be there to support them. So that's a little bit of a background.
And what a fantastic facility or service to provide as well. You know, as you mentioned there, in an area that is under provided for. I don't like using the word deprived. I would say under provided for is
Mm,
something that I would prefer to use myself, because I don't think anywhere should be deprived.
mm.
Makes it seems like it's done on purpose whenever I use that word, but that's just me getting
Yeah.
into the semantics for it. But you know what I mean? Like
Mm,
there's every kid on that street, every kid in all the streets in that area should have the same chance or the same opportunity, you know, to at least forge something for
mhm,
themselves. And you can't do that in an empty stomach, as you say. And that's the bearable. That's the
exactly.
if you excuse the pun, that's the bread and butter of your food bank, of your operation there with regards to the food bank. And you know, I'm recently father, you know, and for the
Mhm,
last years, and I don't know what it is, but like a lot of people will say, you know, something just clicks inside you like that. But for me,
mm,
the first thing I would always go to is the kids, the kids, the kids, the kids, the kids. And when I saw that you put this out on Twitter, you know, about your drive on the 14th of September for the Everton game, I reached out to you straight away and I was like, hey,
mm,
this is worth this is worth signal boosting here. This is worth throwing out there and making sure that you guys can have the best opportunity that you can to succeed with this, because it's, as I say, it's really beneficial. You mentioned there as well that you didn't expect to be going on for 11 years. Um
mm.
when the food bank was opened, was there was did you guys have a cutoff point in it? Because I think that's quite a kind of that statement kind of hit me there a moment ago, you know, when you said that.
Yeah, so I actually wasn't there when it opened 11 years ago. So it was opened by the church, and like I say, it was just really to help with the congregation that were coming to them and
Yeah.
saying, you know, we're having certain issues. And I don't think the term food bank was really perhaps even a well-known thing then. Like it wasn't, they thought, oh yeah, we're setting up a food bank. This is how we go about it. It was more, we're helping out families in our congregation that
Mhm.
need support. And then as it's evolved over time, I got involved around 6, nearly 7 years ago now. Then yeah, it's become more of a need, and definitely a growing need. We have 3 different centres, so you know, we're working across multiple days in multiple locations, still within that region, but just to make sure that people are able to access at different points. Whereas originally it was just literally in the back kind of room of the church, and people come
Mhm.
in on a Sunday and then, you know, took away a bag of food. Um, so it has evolved over time. You know, particularly things like the pandemic, things were very different during those times. And actually, for us being, we're now a Trussell Trust affiliated food bank, so it's a fully kind of official thing,
Mhm.
and it has been for quite a while. But you'll still have lots of community led food banks that aren't perhaps official, but they might be in churches, schools, community centres. And I
Yeah.
think actually across Birmingham, we have a food justice network which we're a part of, and there's around 500 different organisations just across the city. So that perhaps gives an idea of like the need that is out there, and we're just a little part of it, really trying to do what we can.
Absolutely. And we were speaking before we recorded this, but do you want to let the guys know how many times you would roughly run these in and around Aston Villa and around the football match and so on?
Yeah, sure. So we don't actually collect on site at Villa Park, so we have to apply for a license from the council. There's obviously quite a few different charities that would like to be on site match day just because of the footfall. So we probably have around 2 or 3 collections a year. We tend to pick a Saturday game where possible, but as you know, they're always changing. So we have been caught out a couple of times just because you need to apply for the license quite a bit in advance. And then we'll always do additional things as well. So we've done quiz nights at the Aston Tavern. We've done carol services at the parish church. You know, we've done things during COVID when people couldn't go to the games. We did a donate your standard match day pint. So actually, the Villa fans have been very supportive, and they are a great kind of channel for us to get donations from, but just also to have that kind of community feel that it's, you know, it's part of their community as well that they're helping, and it's really going to people that are just outside Villa Park.
Mm, absolutely, and that's wonderful. You know, wonderful that you've all those other pieces. You know, quiz nights you mentioned about
Yeah.
carol singing at Christmas time with a lot of Burnley fans just
Oh,
when the game was called off around the time of the pandemic. So you know, um, all that, that effort is huge, and highlighting it for people, I think is very worthwhile. And also, you sent me something that I want to pop up on screen here now, and I hope people will be able to see it. But it is essentially like what people can do to help you guys, because it's like that's what this is about. We want you to get the most help that you can possibly get. And as I say, here it is from 3:30 p.m. on the 14th of September. You've kind of got some, I suppose, high need foods, if that is the case, there on the side. Do you want to talk us through this little piece here, if you don't mind?
Yeah, sure, no worries. So, what we have seen over the last kind of couple of years, where people who have perhaps not had, as I mentioned earlier, so many like kind of budgetary issues or just strains from the general cost of living, we used to
Mm,
get a lot of donations from certain channels, and now that's kind of dried up a little bit, and traditional kind of givers are, less able to give now. So, we do have a bit of a gap to fill, and it's around 3,000 a month that we're spending on kind of meeting that gap to supply the demand. Now, the shopping list, I think when people think of food banks, we get a lot of baked beans and pasta, but which we do appreciate, but we always tend to get the same kind of items. So
mm,
I always like to share, what other things do we need? Because whatever we're giving out a food parcel, we want to make it still nutritious and that people can make multiple meals across a week from it. And, we're giving them some kind of good substance there, so
mhm,
just to make it varied. So we also now do provide toiletries, things like baby food, formula, nappies, as I was saying, but also things like people will come to us and say, I've just moved into social housing, I don't really have anything, so we started doing some starter packs, saucepans, cutlery, some bedding sometimes, depending on what people need. Because it's surprising, when you kind of go from something to nothing, it's
mhm.
kind of starting again for some people. So they just don't have access to any of these. So we have kind of evolved into a bit of a fuller service than we perhaps were traditionally in the past. And yeah, we just support where we can, really.
That's
One
amazing.
of the
So
things,
it's essentially,
right.
what you've kind of branched into is anything for living. Any of your commodities you would use for, just making a homestead a home.
Yeah, so it's really surprising what some people actually get by on without asking for help. And I
Yeah.
think sometimes what comes with this, and why there's such a need perhaps for food banks, is people get to crisis and they don't know where to turn for support before they reach that point. But also
Mm,
that there's shame. They don't want to ask their friends, they don't want to ask their family, they don't want to, admit to how things really are. And we're kind of there to say there's no shame here. This could happen to anyone, depending on circumstance, and so we'll help wherever we can.
mm. One of the interesting things I see there on the leaflet there is carrier bags. I can't move my house for the bloody things. I'd love if I could just pop them into an envelope and send them to you, but it's something that would have absolutely, like, it makes so much sense when I see it there. At 30 to 60p a bag, and if you give people stuff in a bag, you're not going to expect them to only take what they can carry in their hands. That's a huge cost, I would imagine, at the end of the week or the month.
It really is. I mean, if you think about, so I think in our last kind of annual, so we kind of do March to March. So in the last year, we gave out 46 tons of food. So you can imagine how many bags are needed for that amount of food, and it does take a big chunk out of money that could be spent on food or toiletries. So now the cost has increased of carrier bags in most shops here, and they went from 5p to 60p in some places, and it's a big jump in terms of when you're trying to, like you say, not have people carrying tins in their hands essentially.
Mhm. Yeah, because like if you were to give out 100 packages, and I know it's not that much, but still €60, £60 that's
Mm.
out of, like, that could be a package for somebody else that you're giving out if you're giving out 100 packages. So that to me was really interesting. When I saw that there, I for one, yeah, I don't know if anybody else is watching this that has a ton of carrier bags, but I always get killed when I come back from doing the shopping because I never bring the bags with me, and we have that drawer that I would imagine. Well, I'm presuming I'm making a striking stereotyping of absolutely every family in UK and Ireland at this point, but we have this drawer that's just overflowing with bags, so that's something that I would never have thought of. I would never have thought of at all. You have a couple of drop-off points as well, Kerry. I think that's very important because you mentioned that it isn't actually at the ground. So for a lot of people that are thinking, oh, you know what, I don't want to be carrying this with me and up to the ground or whatever, I won't be able to go get my pint or whatever the case is. But you will be able to, because the drop-off points are not at the actual ground themselves. So you can drop and then you can go and you don't have to carry it around with you at the actual game itself or towards the game. Towards the stadium, should I say. So talk to the guys about those two drop-off points.
Yeah, sure. So the main one's Aston Parish Church, and I think everyone will be aware of that church. You can see it as you're coming in towards the ground. You can see it from the motorway, so people should be able to see the spire and head towards it. We'll be there with our gazebo, and you can drop off items there. If you are coming from the other side of the ground, we also have Birchfield Gospel Hall. I've put here just a kind of brief as to where it is, but you'll walk past it, maybe if you come from that side and recognise it anyway, and you can also drop off items there. If you do happen to see one of us in kind of green tabards and you want to just hand over a bag, that's fine. We can do the running back to one of the drop-off points. Don't feel like you have to go out of your way to go to one of them. We just appreciate the support. So, yeah, you can give it to also one of the volunteers.
And for those that may not be able to get to the game, have you guys got any online donation service or anything like that? Are you set up for this?
Yeah, so we have one that runs year round through Just Giving, and I can share that link and perhaps you can share it with everybody. Also, there are drop-off points. Yeah, there's also drop-off points at Tesco at Witton. That people probably, again, aware of the big Tesco by the ground, and Sainsbury's in Wild Green. So if you are local to the area, just near the checkouts, there's a drop-off point there as well. So yeah, other options.
Other options is right. Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, listen, Kerry, you guys, anybody with that works in food banks has my utmost respect, and it, not everybody is going through good times all the time. And sometimes sometimes people are never going through good times. And being hungry is in 2024 is completely avoidable. In my view, maybe call me idealistic or whatever you think, but being hungry in 2024 with the mountains of food that we produce and gets thrown out and everything, for me is criminal. And as I say, going back to it, if people here have kids and stuff like that, think about if your kid was going to school hungry, to me it's unconscionable, but as I say, you guys are doing a great service from that point of view, making sure that, as you said, nutritious packages are going to the people who need it the most. So, and I'm here in Ireland, I'm here on the west coast of Ireland. I'm the bones of 500 miles away from where you guys are, but it's really touching that, to hear from people in food banks, and the increased usage of food banks is something that we should never stop talking about, especially in 2024. So well done.
Thank you. And I think just one more point from me is that we don't always know what's going on for everybody. So you might be helping, somebody in the community, but it could actually be someone that that just hasn't or doesn't want to talk about it. So, lots of people's circumstances are unknown. And I've had fans ask me, where they can go and where they can get help. So I think it's just good to recognise that, it might actually just be somebody closer to home as well. But yeah.
Absolutely. Well, Kerry, thank you so much for joining us today. I hope this podcast reaches the people who need it most, or who can help the most, should I say. And if you are watching this and you're going to be in attendance at Villa Park on the 14th of September, even if it's a case of emptying out that carrier bag drawer, think of all the different ways that you can help. You don't have to put your hand in your pocket and take out 100 quid. You don't have to do that. There's so many different ways that you can help the food bank and help it get to the people that need it the most. So I implore you all, if you are going that direction on the 14th at 3:30, and if you bump into Kerry or any rest of the guys in the green tabards, you said, yeah, just even carrier bags. I'm blown away by the carrier bags. I know I'm smiling when I say it, but it just makes so much sense, and it could be the easiest way that you could help the food bank on Saturday, the 14th of September. So thanks a million for your time today, Kerry. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. I appreciate the platform, so thank you.
Not at all. Anytime you're more than welcome back. So yeah, you guys can Google Aston and NECHELLS food bank if you do want to donate online as well. We'll pop the Just Giving link in the link below. I wish you all the best with it on Saturday, and I also hope that Villa get a win, because maybe, I don't know if you guys are going to be sticking around after the game afterwards. Maybe people will be more happy and might throw stuff into the buckets afterwards. But hopefully the optimism will drive it. And we will be talking about this again on our Team Sheet Tantrum on Saturday the 14th as well, before the Everton game. So yeah, hopefully that would be a good reminder for people as well. But I really thank you for your time, and I thank everybody for watching this. Go and look them up. It's the smallest thing that you can do. And as I say, I'm going to come back to it again. I know it seems like I'm making a joke over it, but I'm not. But the carrier bags, to me, is absolutely 60p carrier bag. That there's some savings to be made there for the food bank. So yeah, excellent stuff. So that's going to do it for us today, everyone. Bit of a different podcast. Hope you enjoyed it. We will be back with our regular broadcasting, if you want to call it broadcasting, in the coming days. But we're going to enjoy this international break a little bit more, enjoy a little time off. So thanks so much, everybody, for watching. And all that's left to say is up the Villa.
Villa.